Hello there, coming up in the Saturday Night Showdown. A week on from the assassination attempt on President, or future President Trump, conspiracies swirl. Democrats claim Trump set it up. Republicans said the Secret Service were deliberately incompetent to let it happen. But is the incompetence actually down to a push for forced diversity? And it's Trump-o-mania. There were big guns of a different kind for Donald Trump as wrestling legend and real American. Hulk Hogan made a rousing speech at the Republican convention. I wonder if Rishi's regretting not asking Big Daddy to back him. And the Leeds Riots showed how some people just think that they're above the law, like this guy who's caught on camera trying to set fire to a bus. Where were the police? This is your Saturday Night Showdown. And discussing all tonight's topics with me are my brilliant panel. Joining me tonight, he's got a big brain and he talks like he's on cocaine. It's Andrew Eborn. Look at him there with his magic wand. Plus, the one who only looks like one and only is Suzie Kennedy, the comedian and Marilyn Monroe impersonator. I'm joined tonight by Andrew Eborn, the lawyer, the magician, the polymath.
The polymath. I love your introduction. He's got a big brain. He sounds as though he's on cocaine. I thought, who writes these lines? It's brilliant stuff. But I'll take it. It's going to be good.
And we've also got Suzie Kennedy, who's a comedian and one of the world's premier Marilyn Monroe.
The only one. The only one.
Wait, don't we? I'm interested because you usually got left and right. Am I the left tonight?
You are, yes, you are.
Ah, finally.
Yeah. So how are you both doing?
I'm phenomenally well. It's such a joy. I tell you what, we love doing this show. The amount we have to pay to get on here it is absolutely brilliant.
Now, looking at the issue with the Trump assassination, a lot of leftists actually got in trouble for posting jokes about the Trump assassination. Some people are saying, because obviously cancel culture is something that's traditionally affected people on the right a lot more than people on the left, but we're seeing people getting fired from their jobs. Even Jack Black's bandmate in Tenacious D. Tenacious D is no more now.
And quite sad, isn't it? Because his name is Gas, which is quite appropriate when you're talking about Trump, because in America, Trump means to fart. So to have something called gas making gags about it. The reality is it was a comedy moment. It's supposed to be funny. And it always used to say, George Carlin used to say, the secret of comedy is knowing where the line is and going above it.
Yeah.
So people are instantly going to be making jokes about it. Where was Trump hit? We're not quite sure. He's got this enormous bandage on. You're working on that sort of basis. Jack Black and his relationship with that guy who's been going on for years, he suddenly just dismissed him, threw under the bus.
So do you think Jack Black should have stood by his bandmate?
I think he should have turned around and said, we were discussing this earlier, he should have turned around and said, it's a joke, it's an ill-informed joke, he maybe shouldn't have done it, it was too soon and so on and so forth.
But also, it wasn't much of a joke. He just sort of said, don't miss next time, or words to that
I think there's
effect.
more going on than this. I think it's, when you've just got a bandmate that you just want to get rid of, they might, and they're just like, God, just do something wrong, and he's like, finally, show's over.
Straight away.
Yeah, I just think you've got that mate, the mate you're always trying to get rid of. You just need them to mess up.
I think it's a good point. But it was his birthday. This is the thing. So he was presenting. I saw the video. He was presented his birthday cake on stage and said, make a wish. And so spur of the moment, he made that gag. It wasn't a very good gag. Yeah. But the whole Australian tour got cancelled. Yeah. Jack Black will never speak to him again. It's a bit over the top.
But then people are saying the reaction to leftists cracking jokes, basically saying that they wish Donald Trump had been shot, don't miss next time, whatever it is. People are saying, it's over the top. But can you imagine? Can you imagine if a right-wing person, if I'd have come out on stage, after an assassination attempt on Obama, or after an assassination attempt on a left-wing politician, and that was almost succeeded. I mean, let's not forget, but for the grace of God, if Trump had just turned his head the other way.
This is the irony. If you look at all the tweets and you look at the people that are saying like, oh, he should have missed, and the wishes, all their bios say, be kind.
But also you've got to put this in context, because today there's been that appalling murder of the divisive far-right politician in Ukraine. Her name's Iriana Farian. So the politicians and people in the public are getting killed is not right. We had Joe Cox over here. We had obviously Amos as well, and that sort of stuff. It is appalling. Humour, however, is that dark sort of space. Whenever there's a tragedy, people are going to come out with a comedy, and it's both sides. When they talk about the profession, it's always the tragedy and the comedy, and that's sometimes how people cope with things.
Yeah, and looking at the incompetence around this, the Secret Service, I mean, it's ridiculous. And Kimberly Cheetle, the head of the Secret Service, came out and said they couldn't put men on the roof where the sniper was because there was a slight slope on it, so there was health and safety issues. I thought, if there's one group of the government that you think isn't going to be too worried about health and safety, it's people who are taking out snipers, the Secret Service.
Watching those clips, though, about the male and female, you know me, I'm a feminist. I think equality for women.
Yeah.
But there's certain things that women physically can't do. And if we're looking at the English police force, you do see women being spun around by criminals. And, if I'm trying to arrest you, it's not going to work out. It doesn't mean I'm a bad policewoman, but I'm probably going to lose that fight.
Yeah.
And we're not. And that's why when he's been shot at, he's like, do you know what? Because I think Trump does support women's equality. I think he's done some things that are, but I don't think he's out there But if you just nearly be shot, you're like, yeah, just think I'll get the boys in for this.
I think he treats all women equally. I think that's probably a fair comment. But the reality is this: there was an appalling oversight, and it's nothing to do with being physically whatever. It was less than 100 metres, I think it was, 100 yards away from the stage.
Yeah.
It was an obvious place where you're going to have a sniper.
Yeah.
So why it wasn't looked at? There are so many questions.
For like half an hour before. Members of the public had seen this guy
saw the guy
climb
with
up on
the
the
fake
roof.
Trump hair and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
We alerted them to this guy.
We were alerting the police.
Half an hour before.
Apparently, part of the reason is that the Secret Service have to work in conjunction with local law enforcement because they're stretched really thin. The Secret Service now have to guard, people like Joe Biden's grandchildren have to have their own Secret Service detail protecting them. So they're stretched really thin, so they've got to work with local law enforcement and the immediate vicinity around, the immediate perimeter around Trump, that's Secret Service. Then if you go a bit further, it's local law enforcement. So apparently, the members of the public were informing the local police who were, running in circles and banging into each other and all the rest of it.
Eyewitness report.
But then we also saw the Secret Service. I mean, they've had this big push for diversity, for 30% female representation, but I don't think they're hiring the best people for the job. I think they're hiring people that tick that box, that tick that 30% female representation, because we saw them fumbling, couldn't get the guns back in the holsters. We saw them flapping around. We saw the photograph of one of them was, instead of throwing herself over the president to protect him from bullets, she's sort of hunkered down, hiding behind him almost.
But I don't think she's hiding because she's a woman. I just think she's hiding because it's frightening.
Oh, I'd be hiding too.
And she might not want to die for Donald Trump.
No, but I'd be hiding too. But that's why I shouldn't be a Secret Service agent. You know what I mean? I don't think if you have some sort of quota where 30% of Secret Service have to be lanky Scottish people, then you're going to get the same issue happening.
But this is not about the physical protection. This is about the intelligence beforehand. So if you're seeing somebody on a roof, and it doesn't matter what you are on that sort of thing, the reality is they could have stopped that. It makes no sense at all. They're going to have a special report in the next few days. They've been ordered to come and present that special report because there's so many questions to be answered, not least how on earth a sniper got on, as they say, 100 yards away from the stage when it's an obvious place. It's slope or no slope, and that needs to be looked at.
And also the Secret Service snipers seem to have no problem being on a roof that had a bigger slope on it and then shooting him. It's weird. It's also strange that they let him take the shots because it looked like, it looked like they had him in their sights, but they waited until he took the shots before they shot him.
And what we have to remember in all of this, the tragedy, as I say, it's always a combination of the human stuff and also the tragedy. Somebody did lose their life that day as well.
And other people were injured.
Father, and they lost the family as a result of it, and it is horrendous. So absolutely call out on all sides. What's interesting is how they've turned down the rhetoric. And Biden's backtracking on what he said about having him in the crossfire and things like that. Said, we didn't mean that, just got to get the bullseye focus on Trump. And the language, I think, for politicians now is going to be dialed down. And I heard Trump, he's a different man in terms of how he's speaking to people now.
Rhetoric.
It's rhetoric on that sort of
the girl from Orange is the New Black needs to come out and apologise because she called for him to be assassinated.
Wow.
And so I do read some news.
Yes,
he didn't know that Montel Williams went out with who's the vice president?
Kamala.
Oh, is it Kamala?
Yeah. And of course, we're not. I'm not in any way suggesting that women can't do just as good a job as a man in the Secret Service. But I do think the Secret Service kind of admitted that they'd done some forced diversity instead of hiring meritocratically. They'd done some forced diversity. By the way, when Trump reappeared, when they'd had the attempted assassination, his new security detail was all big burly blokes. It's like why weren't the women there?
The optics were strange and that sort of stuff. I think it has to be a meritocracy. We always say about, but I don't think the failings were because of the diversity. I think the failing was information.
Well, this is it, and diversity is good, but certain people are good for certain jobs.
Yes.
I can't protect you, Leo.
Yeah.
Right, and this is the thing, I can't. I probably couldn't arrest you. You're physically stronger than me.
Yeah.
So
there are lots of grounds I can help you.
There's lots of things that women can do, and there's lots of things that, we talk about not looking at things. In the Manchester Arena bombings, there was warnings, and they were ignored. So we're not saying that, everything's going to be perfect, but if I was wanting to be just walking home, I'm glad when I leave sometimes with you and with you, I feel safer. Yeah. I wouldn't feel so safe leaving with a girl.
You're so right, Susie, and we've spoken about this before, and you have to actually celebrate the differences and embrace those.
Yeah, we're complementary.
Women are a lot better at certain things than men, Yeah. And you work on that as a principle. Let's embrace that. And we should be blind, but it has to make sure it's a meritocracy. People need to be able to do the job.
Has to be the way. You can't have forced diversity. Anyway, coming up, we will assess the week's winners and losers. This week, we've got a Leeds rioter trying to burn a bus. Hulk Hogan brings us Trump-o-mania. And Just Stop Oil are going to be doing some porridge. And we'll show you what happened when a robot approached a nice bunch of lads on the street. See you in a minute.
Hey, man. I apologise if there was any confusion. I am an AI language model developed by OpenAI called ChatGPT. I am here to provide information, answer questions, engage in conversations.
Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. Kearse Blessed is coming up, but first I promised I would show you what happened next when a robot had a chat with a bunch of lads.
I'm an AI language model developed by OpenAI called ChatGPT. I am here to provide information, answer questions, engage in conversations, and... Whoa, a robot! Wait! No!
That's it. Fantastic.
See, I'm less worried about artificial intelligence taking over the world now. It's not so much of a threat to humanity when you can just pile drive the robot into the pavement.
Exactly. People are worried about artificial intelligence. Well, there you go. You've got no intelligence at all next to artificial intelligence. You know what's going to win. Extraordinary stuff.
Anyway, it's now time to go through the winners and losers of the week. There were riots in Leeds on Thursday. Thousands of people took to the streets and flipped police cars and burned anything not nailed down. And this guy was filmed setting fire to a bus. Take a look at this.
What are you doing? Yo! What are you doing? Jesus. Look at that guy. Jesus.
Now, there are thousands of people on the street. I saw some of the other footage that was spreading around social media. Thousands of people in the street. And the police turned up and then they seemed to retreat. I was shocked that, we don't have the forces in place in this country to deal with something like this.
I know. What made me laugh more is they're going, what are you doing? Yes. What are you doing? He's setting fire to a bus. It's pretty clear what he's doing.
Can you believe how brazen he is? He's being filmed. His face is in full view. I mean, it's shocking.
It was bizarre, but it was the biggest fail ever because he was sort of there. And there was sort of when one sort of arsonist comes along, you get three at once, But they were all trying. They had their little lighter, and nothing was happening. And if you look at that video a bit later on, there's somebody trying to set light to the back of it as well.
Right.
And neither of them were successful.
Right.
But in terms of criminals, and a defence lawyer is going to have an interesting time defending these two arsonists. There's a lot of arson around, is going to turn around and say. You work on that sort of basis. So there they are. They're doing that sort of stuff. There's virtually no defence at all if you're looking at that sort of thing. But what a fail, and thank goodness they failed. There are appalling scenes in Leeds. Everybody's gone feral on that sort of principle, which is really dangerous.
What's the bus done, though? I'm not too sure what the bus did wrong.
People were just seeing an opportunity to burn anything. I don't know if that bus ended up burning, though. It seems that one up a good defence.
Another one did. I think that one was pretty good. Yeah. Because the other burning bus, that went viral. The burning bus was
there it is. There's the burning bus.
There's the burning bus, but it's not that one. Yeah. It's a different bus. So you have a look at the one that they set light to, or the guy was trying to set light to. That didn't get burnt at all.
Right. So it's obviously got some sort of it's set out its defence mechanism. It's anti-lighter.
Yes.
Like it's squid ink. But some of the, I mean, I was shocked by the lack of police presence. The police turned up and then seemed to retreat as well. And some people said that the police presence escalated things. But really, you know, I think a solid police presence would have stopped this happening before it had properly started.
I didn't know that they'd said that we withdrew to calm it down, because I'm not...
No, that's what was reported in I read in The Guardian that they said, I mean, obviously this is The Guardian, so it's not entirely unbiased.
You read The Guardian, finally. Well done. Well done, Leo.
I don't think you read it at all.
But they said that the police presence escalated things.
But you could argue that could be true. Because sometimes, but if they're actually rioting and setting fire to buses, you have to have a police presence.
Absolutely.
Because I saw them drive, I didn't personally see them with my own eyes, but I saw them on the internet, just literally went, you know what, this is a bit rough, let's go. And you hear the people go, the police are leaving us.
But it's a sign of our times, because the way it all started was somebody taken to social services, so kids being taken away. So you saw that original thing, and then the whole people came out. But the world is a tinderbox at the moment. And the slightest thing can make people just riot. I mean, and they start looting. I mean, that's got nothing to do with taking the kids away for social services and stuff like that. You've got to work on the basis that we've got to handle these things with sensitivity.
But do you think this is an example of multiculturalism failing? Because we've been told that, you know, diversity is this incredible strength, but in fact we're seeing a lot of sectarian conflict in the UK now that we didn't used to have. I mean, all right, we had Celtic versus Rangers, but you know, it's not quite the same thing. And we're seeing here, you know, this is a deprived part of Leeds with people rioting in the streets.
I think the reality, Leo, is that people are waiting. That people are so like coiled springs that the slightest thing is going to set people off. So you have to take the steam out of these sort of situations. And I don't know why, rather than just taking this, the kids being led out, I saw the footage of this as well, being led out in big streets, everybody filming it, all coming around, shouting at the police. There must have been a quieter, more subtle way of doing it. People in the community need to work out the way that you can diffuse these situations, because it is actually horrendous.
This is it, though, because the only time I grew up in a poor community, the only time you see police is when they're the aggressor. So if they're coming to arrest someone, if they're coming to take somebody for a speeding ticket or a fine, you never see them turn up to help you. So that is a lot of anger. So when the police are there, they're like, well, actually, you probably are inflaming things because you never come here to ever help us.
Right.
And that's the problem. You're absolutely right, because trust is at an all-time low in politicians, in the media, in the police. And I do always say, trust comes in on foot and leaves on horseback. And what they now... Thank you. I'll do it. It's good. Copyright ad reward. The reality is that you need to build up that trust. We need to get communities back together again. We'll actually turn around and say, look, if the kids need to go into social service, I don't know all the circumstances, do it a bit more subtly. Don't lead them out and that sort of stuff. And in a situation which is already very, very delicate. And that we're going to get more of this. And the more you show it in the media, more people are going to say, well, we're also angry about whatever it is, and we're going to do things.
And we have lazy trust. It's like painting a police car with a rainbow flag. It's lazy trust. It's like, we like gay people, there's a rainbow car. That's not actually doing anything. It's not...
I don't think people should trust the police so much. I mean, if you go to other countries, people don't have this trust of the police. They have fear of the police.
And why
I think we need to bring that back, because the police go around and they whack people with sticks, and if you report a crime to them, you get punched in the face and money taken off you. And maybe we need to bring that back. Anyway, it's the Republican National Convention this week, and who better to show support for Donald Trump than the realest American of all, Hulk Hogan. Let's take a look.
But what happened last week when they took a shot at my hero and they tried to kill the next president of the United States? Enough was enough. And I said, let Trump-o-mania run wild, brother. Let Trump-o-mania rule again. Let Trump-o-mania make America great again.
That's what I'm talking about. I mean, that's amazing. That guy's 70 years old. Look at the guns on that. I don't know how he got those guns past security. Now, Democrats mocked this, but it's surely not as embarrassing as Jack Black in a romper suit, which is what we got at the Democrat conference. Now, Susie, do you think Trump is inevitable at this point? I mean, surely there's no way he can lose the election.
He'll win, but have you ever seen Idiocracy, the movie Idiocracy?
Yeah.
I feel like it's coming true because the guy that ends up being the president was a WWE wrestler, and he was talking like that and ripping his shirt. I feel like, are we in like a Truman Show or something?
But don't we need that? We need some testosterone back in politics.
You need a guy, was that a moustache or was he sucking a ferret? That was glorious stuff. What people miss, though, is J.D. Vance, which sounds like a cheap sportswear department store, doesn't it? He did that road to Damascus moment, because if you looked at some of the comments he was making in 2016, he called Trump an American Hitler. He said he was a never Trumper. And what I loved about it, the most persuasive thing is when people, you have that road to Damascus moment. He was a convert. So everybody brought up those old quotes with him. And he said, well, in 2016, that's what I felt. But then Donald became the most glorious president I've ever seen.
But then Donald offered me this job.
And then Donald offered me this job. And also, I realised that the media have been lying about Donald all this time. That's what he said. So all of a sudden, J.D. Vance, who will be the youngest president, if he steps in. Well, he'll be the youngest, one of the youngest vice presidents. If Trump steps down, because Teddy Roosevelt was the youngest, 42. Information here. Teddy Roosevelt, J.D. Vance is 39 at the moment. So if Trump gets elected, and I predict that he will, what's going to happen? If Trump only does like 2 years and J.D. comes in,
you think Trump's going to be like? What else gives you the impression that Trump is going to be like? You know what? I just want 2 years.
Well, just to make my prediction true, we've got a good relationship. It's like, no, he'd be brilliant, and I do think the two of them together are absolutely very interesting. But people will know him from Hillbilly Elegy.
Yeah, he's a blue-collar guy. He's very popular across the old sort of Democrat base of, the post-industrial, blue-collar, white working class.
And in the same way as he did it with Pence last time round, what Trump is doing is brilliantly, it's appealing to people who would not normally vote for him. So when he did Pence, basically he was not getting the Christian side, the fundamental Christians, because Trump had a number of marriages and so on and so forth, so it didn't work on that basis. So he got Pence to work on that sort of thing. What J.D. Vance is doing is bringing Ohio and Philadelphia and various other states, which are marginals. So he's being very clever and strategic on that sort of basis.
So it's a good move by Trump. Now, after years of wishy-washy light-touch sentences for climate activists, 5 Just Stop Oil members have been sent down for some serious time, including the co-founder of the group, Roger Hallam, who was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment, while the other 4 defendants were each handed 4 years. They were sentenced for their roles in the M25 protest, which saw traffic being blocked with an economic cost of at least £765,000 and a cost to the Metropolitan Police of more than £1.1 million. And to add insult to injury, the protesters were driven from the courtroom in a diesel van. They must have hated that. That was probably worse than getting all the time. Now, do you think this will make the rest of Just Stop Oil calm down a bit?
Well, I think it's a good idea, because what I'm worried about, and I was saying to Andrew earlier, is they're releasing prisoners at the moment. Because so it's like a conveyor belt. So they're going to go in and they'll release some really dodgy criminal out into society.
These are really dodgy criminals.
They are, but they're just annoying. They're not a threat to my safety or your safety.
They are. What if you're in an ambulance? You have a heart attack, you're being rushed to hospital, but you can't get there because some Tarquin or Esmeralda is sitting on the
I agree, but then that's up to the police to grab them and move them, right? What I mean is they're not a danger to society. What's the danger that Just Stop Oil
unless you need to get to a hospital.
Exactly, but they should move them. So the failing is not Just Stop Oil. The failing is how we dealt with Just Stop Oil. So now
you're absolutely right, Susie. And the problem is this, is that even those who supported their mission, most people, and I've interviewed lots of the different Just Stop Oil people, most people absolutely object to their tactics. It was absolutely appalling. And even those who support the mission will turn around and do it. Bizarrely, with this government, they're achieving their objective, because a lot of the oil contracts and so on and so forth are now being stopped. And you need to look at that sort of side. But you make a brilliant point about jails being overcrowded already. You're putting them all in there. You have to boot out the real tough criminals as well. But
those criminals are being booted out anyway. The sentences are being shortened. That's just a policy across the board. And I think we need to stop Just Stop Oil and to stop other activists who don't all have their heads screwed on right at all. I mean, Just Stop Oil, fair enough. I'm not debating whether climate change is happening. I'm debating whether we need mass communism and the complete shutdown of Western civilization to stop it. I think it'd be better to just deal with it and ameliorate it and use technology.
On your point, though, Susie, it is a danger to life. And as Leo says, if an ambulance cannot get somebody who's had a heart attack to that hospital because somebody's decided to glue themselves in the road, that person could die, and that's a risk to life.
But putting them people in prison, what they're costing the taxpayer. They're sitting in a prison. They're going to sit together and make plans to do more.
Oh, they'll be separate.
They should be doing something. I just think sitting in prison. Unless you're a dangerous criminal.
Yeah, that's right. Make them break rocks.
Make them do something.
Make them work in an oil rig.
Exactly.
Make them work.
Well, there you go, right?
Anyway, next on the Saturday Night Showdown, we've got Culture Corner with a council worker fired over his pronouns, fat ballet dancers. And while the police didn't show up at the Leeds Riots, they are getting paid to go on pride parades. Plus, I'll show you what happened next when a Russian combat helicopter flew over a Crimean beach. Stay tuned to see the end.
Hello, good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, it's been quite an unsettled start to the weekend, but through Sunday it's generally a dry Sunday for most. Scotland.
Het is more questions.
Waarom jij in die IT wil werken. Je kunt binnen de IT aan de slag als projectmanager, analist.
News Roy. It is more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return, and a few surprises along the way. Might be cold in this studio. That is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 to 9, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. Culture Corner is coming up, but first I promised I would show you what happened when a Russian helicopter flew over a packed tourist beach. Take a look at this. The first casualty of war is picnics. I think we can agree there. And it's terrible when you put your stuff out on the beach and then, a bit of wind picks up and all of a sudden you've got
It's not good, is it?
Yeah.
Why were they so low? What was that about? Do you know?
Some sort of war going on over there.
Is that what they're doing?
Like that. Yeah, they're probably trying to avoid...
They were trying to get their towels down early.
Trying to avoid any Patriot missiles by flying low over the tourist beach. Anyway, is there anything more annoying than being asked by your work to put your pronouns in your email signature? It's insulting, as if people don't know I'm a woman. And it's not going to help anyone. It's compelled speech. It's forcing you to bow down at the altar of gender ideology. So it's understandable when people push back. One man, James Orwin, an IT worker for East Riding of Yorkshire Council, did just that when his boss sent a round-robin email round telling staff to consider adding pronouns to your email signature should you wish to do so. He changed his email footer to XY chromosome guy / adult human male rather than the usual he/him. He was suspended for this and then sacked after refusing to remove his protest pronouns after bosses warned that they posed a serious risk to the transgender community. His claim of unfair dismissal has been thrown out by a tribunal. Now, serious risk to the trans community. I mean, who's going to see an email with pronouns, which, to be honest, could be perfectly valid pronouns. If they, them is a pronoun, then surely XY chromosome guy is a valid pronoun.
You know how I feel about this, right? But about this trans thing. But there was a really, really key word there, consider.
Yeah.
So if it said you must, I could understand him. Oh, you're a lawyer. You're like,
I am a lawyer.
because it did say consider, and so I just went to a comedy thing getting together, and everyone introduced themselves with their name and their pronoun.
Yes.
God.
I know. I didn't. I just said I'm Suzie. And I left it. A few people went, oh, she didn't say her pronoun, but that's fine. But they did say consider, and I think if it was you must, then I'd have written more than XY chromosome man.
But I think just the question being posed, there's some sort of coercion, there's some sort of compelled speech there because they can dress up like that. But there's also the obligation,
and it backfires if there's a pressure to do that. I love the ninja one, which is so we slash them, or the chocolate one, her, she, which I think brilliant, works particularly well in America. You're right. Anybody who forces it down your throat on that sort of basis is going to get people backfiring. I thought that was quite funny. He wouldn't have caused offence to people normally, and I think it would have been wrong to sack them on that.
And also, you can't say that if these pronouns are right and these pronouns are right. Like, you can't say if you're allowed to pick whatever pronouns you want. He can have XY chromosome guy. That's absolutely right.
The key always in this is about respect. If you're not humiliating other people and you're working on that sort of basis, let's just have respect. Bring back respect for all people in the conversation, and that's it.
So I don't write she, her on any email, even if you're there and it's there available.
Keep them guessing.
That's your way. His way of protest was an actual insulting way.
Yeah.
So that's why it's not going to stand up.
I think you should be allowed to be. I don't think that's insulting. I think it's perfectly valid. It fits with the rules.
It's funny.
And anyway, in these times of inclusivity, is it time to include fat people in ballet? A dance class for larger ladies called Power Plus Wellness has launched beginner ballet classes that assist the bigger bone ballerinas in leaping gracefully into the air. Let's take a look.
Open up the door, can you open up the door? I know you said before, you can't cope with anymore. You told me it was war, said you'd show me what's in store. I hope it's not for sure, can you open up the door? Open up the door, can you open up the door? I know you said before, you can't cope with anymore.
Now, it's great that these women feel nice and included, but isn't this a bit of a health and safety risk to the male dancers? I mean,
I like the idea of encouraging anybody to participate in anything, even if it's too much. You work on that sort of basis, the risk of a double hernia. But no, absolutely, anybody should be able to do anything on that sort of basis. So I like the idea.
Well, I just thought it was a little bit insulting that being held up. Because if I'm going to have a little jump, I don't need you to hold me up. It's very patronising.
You're not 28 stone.
Do you know what? Inside me, there is a 28-stone girl dying to come out. So trust me.
Lift, isn't it? They've got to do that. That's part of the ballerina thing, isn't it?
I know, but she's not doing a lift. They're just like walking with her. Like, I'll just be like, I'm all right to walk across the room.
Do you think it's encouraging people to be unhealthy, though? Shouldn't they be saying? I mean, I like the idea of the strict dance instructor who's like, no, you must be this thin if you want to be a ballerina.
You can get a job on Strictly like that.
I was going to say, talk about.
So you've got a job.
Yes, Strictly is far too strict. So you work on that sort of basis. No, I love the idea. Let anybody do anything, be anybody. It's about respect for everybody in the conversation. Yeah. Work on that basis. I love that class. But I think it's a bit unfair to poke fun at them.
Well, you can't sugarcoat the message or they'd eat that as well. Anyway, talking about inclusivity, what would you like to see the police deal with? Maybe arresting some criminals or dealing with mass public disorder. I mean, police were absent for large parts of the Leeds riots. Look at them running away here.
Police is going.
Amy Chelsea say reform.
Look, the also the police. They're chucking glass at me. Look at them running.
Get closer.
They're running.
Get closer.
Oh, of course, they smashed everything.
Inspire confidence in our public services. According to a report in the Daily Mail, Scotland's police officers will be paid to take part in pride parades despite the force cutting back on fighting crime. Uniformed officers are being urged to represent the overstretched force at LGBTQI+++2 SL-/ marches in exchange for pay or a day off in lieu. I mean, surely this is fine. I mean, crime has been completely eliminated, so why can't we have the police getting paid to march and have rainbow flags and balloons at a pride parade?
And it's the standard thing, isn't it? Whenever the police force are massively overstretched. And you're right, it happened when we had the whole Scottish issue about what people could say, and they promised that they were going to investigate every single one. Well, people then turned around and said, well, hang about, there's lots of very serious crimes, people getting their phones nicked.
Yeah.
And the big thing about not just the phone being nicked, all about the data. All of that's coming out now.
Yeah.
This is being done, from personal experience, they can't investigate it all the time because they say, we've got too many people reporting it.
They just, most crimes now, they just give you a number to report to the insurance.
That's not good enough.
Do you think the police need to focus on core crime fighting? I know you're talking about how they need to build trust with communities. I don't think they need trust at all. I think they need fear in communities.
Well, I think there's a bit of both, because when you have respect, I think that's what we're looking for. Rather than fear, we're looking for respect.
Quivering,
those
fear.
Because fear does bring respect, right? A little bit. But also fear brings violence, because you just think, well, I'm not scared of you, I'm going to fight you. So I think respect... I don't have respect for the police, because it seems that they do lazy policing, which is... you said a hate crime, hate crime's horrible, but right now, phones I'm not too bothered about.
If somebody sends a tweet, a transphobic tweet.
And I think what's happened is everyone's just lost respect because of these tweets, because of everything. But when you see a young boy laughing and saying, look, they're running away, we're living in social media, we see everything, and I just think the whole system It's broken.
And that's the problem.
Can't
But the system is not just the police, though, is it? It's got to be the community. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we had some wonderful role models? And actually, just to play devil's advocate, which I always do, the police must have been terrified, quite frankly. There's a small thing, and you have a huge mob, some of whom are setting light to police cars, some failed with the buses, but they sort out other things. It must have been terrifying for them. We need to get the idea of community, where actually we're all in this together.
And of course, we can't blame...
This is what's lacking.
We can't blame the police. I mean, it's orders, legislation that comes from on high that orders them to police tweets and things like that. I'm sure they'd much rather be dealing with actual crime. Anyway, next on the Saturday Night Showdown, Clown World, we've got the world's most annoying girl bosses and a reenactment of the Trump shooting by Ugandan school kids. Plus, I'll show you what happened when a woman decided on a simple cigarette break. Take a look at this.
That.
Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. Culture Corner is coming up, but first I promised I would show you what happened when a woman decided on a little cigarette break. Take a look at this. I love how the guy just sits there and doesn't react at all. Like she does it every third cigarette.
I think he assumes she's going back from her ballet class.
You just stole my joke. Listen, me and Leo are comedians. You never steal a joke. Suzie Kennedy. We're just going
Some African school kids staged a reenactment of the Trump shooting, and it's fantastic. Take a look at this.
I want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
That was fantastic. I hope they all got an A in drama. I mean, this was an iconic moment. It's even made it to, Ugandan villages.
Better bodyguards.
Better bodyguards.
I can predict that will be the shot throughout history, though, of Trump saying fight, 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 and with the blood drunk.
And with the flag behind him.
With the flag behind him.
And it wasn't a pride flag, which is what you get with Biden.
If ever there was going to be a moment where people were not sure if he's going to be presidential, that was one of the most presidential, fearless things that he's done. And I think he's a changed man, and it won him the election.
Absolutely. Now, many people think that we should ban TikTok due to the influence China may have over it. But I think we should ban it just to stop videos like this. Take a look.
Gen Z boss enemy! Gen Z boss enemy! 5'3" in attitude! 5'3" in attitude! Secret product in the trench! Secret product in the trench! New friend green in the sneaky link! New friend green in the sneaky link! Fake dead hands in a hoop!
That is a sneak peek inside the Secret Service department in charge of Donald Trump now. I mean, Suzie, I know.
What was that? What did we just watch?
That was some women in an office recording a video. And I think that shows why you need diversity. You need some men in that office, so they're too embarrassed to do that.
And they wrote some lines. You took out one of my favourite lines, which I won't repeat, but people should go there. People should go and see that sort of stuff. That's the thing about TikTok. The whole idea is it's going to go viral, it's going to be naff, and this is why you get politicians. You had Miliband last week with his guitars blowing in the wind, And
he was being deliberately naff to get people to watch it.
Naff because
that's lucky for him. So I don't think he could be deliberately not naff. To be honest,
have another bacon sandwich or whatever. Work on that. But that's what they do. The whole thing about these TikTok videos is you want it to go viral, and the more we mock it in the media, the more publicity it gets. So they've won.
Yeah, and actually, comedians, they always seem to go viral when it is something awkward happening with the audience, like a heckler or something like that.
Yeah, you can pay your own hecklers to come now.
Yeah,
is that a service people offer?
Yeah, because it'll go viral. You want something to go viral.
The well-rehearsed heckle line. Absolutely, you work on that sort of basis. It's got to be good.
Yeah.
Right, up next, it's Mark Dolan tonight. What have you got for us this evening, Mark?
Well, Leo, we start with good news. The boss of Just Stop Oil has been jailed for 5 years.
Yes.
Throw away the key. Let's hope that cell hasn't got central heating. And in my take at 10, the BBC in crisis. Strictly is their biggest entertainment show. Are they about to axe it? We'll deal with that at 10. So really busy 2 hours. Don't go anywhere.
Sounds fantastic, Mark. Sounds brilliant. And thank you also to my brilliant panel tonight, Suzie Kennedy and Andrew Eborn. And we'll see you again next week. And don't forget that Headliners is on as well tonight at 11 p.m. That's every night. 3 comedians going through the next day's news. It's a fantastic show. See you next week. I've been Leo Kearse. Goodbye. That was
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.